So, man, Jason, how you doing? Tell me what your life is like right now.
Life is awesome. It's been really great um, to be a husband full time for a while, and be a dad full time has been awesome. I have a 17. Actually, my son will be 18 next week, and my daughter is 15. My wife and I are celebrating 20 years next week as well. So we got a lot going on, and I've just really cherish the time that I've had at the house. It's funny, when everything stopped because the world did, the first thought that crossed my mind as time went on was, man, I really hope my family likes me. Because
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually know, and because I've been gone so much. And it turns out, man, that the roots were deep, and the family is great, and I've just kind of pivoted my life. I went from touring around the clock, as you know well, to I wasn't comfortable sitting still, so I rebuilt my studio and started taking on clients to produce records. I thought I might do one little thing here or there, and I have more than I know what to do with, and it's great. I love it. I absolutely I found more joy in writing songs for other people than I ever found writing songs for myself. And I don't really I'm sure there's some great something in there. But I know for me, watching a person light up when you take part of their story and bring it to life in a song format has been really, really fun. It's been very life giving. And part of that is not only doing this for other artists, but also doing it for my daughter as well. So pretty cool.
Well, I think you do this business long enough, you start to, it's one thing I do in coaching is teach people to feel the edges. Like you can get stuck thinking that this is the only thing I'm good at, or this is the only thing that I'm going to ever be able to do. But there's so much more that God wants us to experience. And sometimes, like you say, we have to slow down or the world has to shut down. And we have to think of, well, what if I did this? Or, I can't do that anymore. So maybe I'll go over and do these things that I've always thought about doing, but never had the time. Tell me about your daughter. So is she an artist? Is she, are you making a record for her?
Yeah. Well, honestly, my son made his own record, and he's producing like four or five artists himself. It's like he gets a paycheck for doing it. It's the craziest thing, and he's out on the road playing drums for people now, and he's 17, so he's like he's like 8 years ahead of me, which is ridiculous. And but he's into kind of the rock thing, as most young people tend to be, you know, as I was, right? So, but that's what he's doing. And my daughter is she's come on the road with building with the band and sang with us at multiple shows. For a season right before COVID, we started toying with the idea of bringing a female vocalist into our music and kind of just taking the lid off of everything we were doing. Trying to create more more sonic palette to work with, and it went great. It was awesome, and we loved it. And then we got to the point where COVID hit, and when we started kind of playing shows again, it was just made more sense for me to just go, well, Haven, why don't you come do it? And she just amazing to watch her walk out on stage with confidence and do her thing. But at the same time, she's also a writer, and we've produced. We're kind of going a song at a time and taking it slow. She's a cheerleader at school, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is what she's going to do with her life. Like it's kind of what I'm saying. You would know as well as I do when you see that it thing, whatever that thing is.
Hmm.
Um, you just kind of go, well, that's going to do something. So right now we're trying to write a song at the time, produce them out, let her songwrite with other artists and all that kind of stuff. But we haven't even taken her or pitched her to labels or anything like that yet. And I don't think we're going to until she's 18 and out of school and ready to go for on the road and leave everything else behind. Because as you know, it takes over your life very quickly.
So that leads me into something I want to ask you. So with now your kids going into the music industry, what are your uh, what's the phrase? Um, what are you telling them to watch out for? Like, you're like, hey, this could be a really great ride, but I'm sure you got a lot of wisdom to share with them. I tell my kids a lot. I'm like, the reason I can tell you what to do is because I've done all the wrong things. I know where all the I know where all the potholes are. So let me at least help you with that. So yeah, tell me about what you're telling your kids now to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things we could talk about, you know, to watch out for because just like you, I've made a lot of, been through a lot of difficult circumstances in the industry. But at the same time, there's been just amazing. The Lord has gifted me with an incredible career, and I think more than anything, um, being, I think probably the biggest thing that I will really lean into is I want them to be in a situation where their well-being is always what's primary, and if it doesn't make sense to do it, they don't have to do it. And because I think that all of us, I'm sure that you've been there before, but you start touring and they're like, you just one more thing. If you just do this one thing, if whatever the case may be. I know for me, like, take this. Nobody's taking this show out in California the day before the Dove Awards. So why don't you go out there and make a lot of money and then red eye back and do the Dove Awards, and you're exhausted and you don't enjoy it. And so I'm a proponent of hard work, and I'm a proponent of no excuses. And yet at the same time, sometimes the best thing you can say is no. And I think that when you're young and an artist, you don't feel like you can say that sometimes. I think sometimes you feel like you have to do, your whole career is based off of this one concert or this one event. And I would submit, no, my whole career is in the hands of God. And I have to do what's right for me and for my family. And I think that makes you, I really would really challenge both of my kids to show up with their cup full and not completely empty
That's
as
great. Yeah, I love that. That's so with the next generation, you know, you're kind of pushing them forward. What's left for building 429? I mean, you've done this a long time now, and anytime I see someone out on the road that has been doing this for a couple of decades, I think about my band For Him. We got to a point where we're like, I think we've done everything we're supposed to do. I don't think we've left anything on the table yet. So I know for the four of us, it was kind of like, I think there's other things we want to do apart from each other. What keeps you guys going? What keeps you guys on the road and
um,
making music?
well, I remember, I feel like I remember that you guys kind of were in that place, and then you had another smash hit song, and all of a sudden you're like the world, like wow, that's not wasn't our plan. I don't know. For me, like I'm just grateful for the time that I've had and for the time that I do have right now. And I've always been a highly driven, highly competitive individual. I've always wanted to, whatever the Lord gave me, I wanted to maximize always, right? So whatever I have, no matter how small it may be, like, God, let me not look back and say, man, if I would have just worked a little harder, something great. And that's funny. I'm just kind of reversing what I just said to my kids earlier. But I would say that you know, for me now, I'm in a different place. I'm much more in a place of like I said, I want to show up in a place of full, not empty. And because I do believe that now is the opportunity for me to be relational, maybe, whereas in the past, I never even knew names. I couldn't know names. I was one thing to the next as fast as possible. Now I focus on writing a song at a time. And it's cool. Building 429 has been a brand and a band that's been around for 20 years now. Interestingly, we still write pretty good songs, and people still play them on the radio, and people still want us to come and play concerts. And so for me, I just don't want to get back in a place where I'm doing 19 shows in 20 days. Like
Yeah,
that's that's not interesting to me anymore. Now it's interesting to me to show up, be able to play the concert, and have the conversations backstage with the pastors of the church and find out what's going on locally, and really go deeper, um, that's just where my heart is, and it's kind of where the band is right now. Like we understand, and also I do believe that, you know, while we may not be, you know, the Newsboys or Toby, you know, because those are obviously ridiculously monstrosities of brands. Um, we put the work in, we put the effort in, and when we show up, people do listen. So, man, guess what? We have all these bands that are opening for us now that we get to pour into. We have some bands that play after us that we get to pour into. And in either case, for me to be there with a heart open as opposed to being there with an exhausted spirit is just where we are.
It does get easier once the kids get out of the house and on their own. And, after, like you said, 20 years of marriage, my wife and I've been married 30 years. And now that I've started traveling again, it's really great for her to be able to go with me. And, our job is done. Well, you're not really done raising your kids, and mine are in their late 20s now. We have 5 grandkids, and you feel like it's a whole new season of life. But there is that freedom. I said this to the For Him guys years ago. And I know you would resonate with this, that touring and making records was a have to and not a get to. You're in a contract and you've got all these people working for you, and you've got agents and managers that are, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I just remember waking up one day and going, man, we have to leave. I have to leave my family and go on the road. This is what we do. I'm just like, I don't want to feel like that anymore. I want to get to do this. I want to be excited to wake up in the morning and and push this thing forward again. You know, it sounds like where you're at with building is that it's still a get to, you know, and I know you've probably seen both sides of that.
Right. Yeah. It's today. It's a get to, and I've really been talking. You know, my guys, like they're so gifted. They're so just incredibly gifted guys, and I think they've even kind of made that turn where it's like, man, all this wealth of just knowledge now we get to pour out, and we get to go out and like tomorrow I play outside of Philadelphia, and you know, in the past, tonight I'd be playing in Oregon, you know, and, and flying in 30 minutes before. And I've even just gone so far as to even say, like, hey, man, I'm flying in, you know, the day before to play an event. And then I'm going to get home. I'm first thing in the morning, I'm on a plane to get back to my house. But so that I'm rested and full to be able to, you know, and so
Hmm.
but I don't think our music's done. I still think our music matters. I still think I can write songs that impact and have life in them, and I also think I have something to say to people out there who believe that their calling or that their mission is over. I don't. I would just challenge that. You know, like I just really believe that it may look different, right? But at the same time, like your calling is to go and make disciples of men, to share the good news of the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, right? But your assignment, yeah, your assignment can change, right? And I think that that's for me to just kind of go, okay, my assignment for 20 years was to run hard on the road, to learn every lesson I possibly could, to make mistakes, to fail, but to sometimes succeed, and to be a blessing to people, wherever I could be, but to store up all this knowledge and now pour it out on the next generation and try to help them not make the same mistakes. Right. So
That's right.
that's my assignment. I'm all in, man. I love it.
That's great. Well, when you've got a target, it's so much easier to load up and go after it. And it sounds like you guys have a great target. You know who you are. You know what God's called you to do, and that makes everything a little bit easier when you're an artist and in the music industry. The word artist is, man, I've gone round and round with that word for years of my life, and finally at peace with it, that that's who I am. And I believe God's an artist.
Oh,
God's the greatest artist. God's the greatest singer, songwriter, instrumentalist, sculptor, painter, poet that's ever existed. And um, I just know for me, I personally, I just want to continue to reflect the art that only He can inspire. Um, so, what do you hope? musically is in the future for you guys? Is there going to be another? I know you're saying you're just writing a song at a time. Are you preparing a new album? Is if all this COVID stuff just finally kind of go away, do you see yourself, ever back to a full touring schedule and making records every couple of years?
Honestly, no, I don't. Um, and some people won't understand that. I remember there was a band years ago that I remember that they said that now I'm not saying that we're done because that's not where I'm at all. I'm 100% in. I'm still invested. Um, but there was a band I remember their greatest hits record came out, and on the record it said, "Thank you so much. Uh, um, farewell. Many of you won't understand, and that's okay." And I was one of the people that didn't understand. I was like, "Have you lost your mind? What are you thinking? Right? Like what?" It's a band called PFR, and I was such a huge fan of this band.
Hmm. Yeah.
Epic, man, in every way. And so, um, but now I kind of get where they are. I saw it. I can see it now in a different light. For me, I'm not going to go back to touring 150, 200 shows a year. I don't have a desire to do that. I found out that life at home, my wife and my kids, is awesome. So, and you know what's funny is like it's not to say that it isn't awesome to be on the road, but um, man, I didn't realize that I could be home and be this happy and that I could, like I said, write songs for other artists and enjoy it that much. And I also didn't realize that with the space and the amount of time that I'm given now, that I could write even better songs for me, and you know how it is. And you have to turn in, there's 30 or 40 songs. And in my case, there were times when I wrote 75 songs for a record
Wow.
and
Wow.
75 songs and 65 of them are said, nope, not good enough. Like there's something there, and I'm not going to get in too deep into the label side of things, but I will say that that does speak to you maybe being a little bit tired and those songs not being up to par and you not thinking clearly. That just that's so for me right now where I'm at, I'm just loving writing a song at a time. I do think that there is a record that we're considering making um, that I'm really excited about, but I got to be careful what I say about it. But I'm excited because we now have a career that spans 20 years. That means that there are many people that come to Building 429 shows that don't even know some of our hit songs. They weren't born when the songs came out.
Yeah.
So I get really excited about authenticity, and I get really excited about in terms of our music moving forward. Gimmicks don't mean a lot to me. Um, wow, that's cool. Wow, that's as they say these days, dope, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like.
And they
I
won't
want
say it in a week. Yeah.
to say like I want us to write songs that glorify and that I can look back at and say that was authentically my heart and that was what God was doing through me. And so that's where I am right now. We have a new song called "Not Finished Yet." It's kind of just about that. It's literally that thing. There's nothing about the song when I listen to it that I go, hmm, that's a little we were trying to push it here, trying to be modern. It's just to me, it just feels like this very honest, heartfelt song that hits all the markers for me, and I'm grateful that I now get to do that, um, and at my own pace, and work my way to those songs, and that I now know when we have one of those.
That,
It's mine, which is a beautiful thing.
yeah. That's great, brother. You've earned it. And congrats on a great career. And I know that God has great things planned for you as you just continue to follow your heart, follow His voice. And man, I know I'm about probably 10 years older than you, but dude, there's a lot of opportunities for guys that have a lot of knowledge, like you said, that can impact the next generation. And there's still a lot of life left. I feel like I'm more creative now than I was 20 years ago. So you have that to look forward to. Just keep doing what you're doing and you know do it with the right heart.
Well, again, I'm grateful for it. Again, I get to work in one of the blessings of my career has been that I've always been in the church too. So that together has created a great place for me to work out of. And hopefully the new songs are connecting with people's hearts. We were seeing that all the time. That means a lot to me. But again, for me, when this COVID thing, I guess, is over, probably the thing I look the most forward to is playing a concert and somebody yelling from the back, "Hey, play Glory Defined." And I look at my set list and it's not there. And I go, coming right up. And not being afraid of the consequences of moving off script, or
Hmm.
somebody in the front saying, thank you so much, for me just giving them a hug. You know what I mean? Like that's just that's where I want to be now. And I just appreciate the opportunity to chat with people like you who have gone before, who have walked this journey, and I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks a lot. Hey, don't be late for your flight.
Yeah, gotta go.